Hey, everybody. I wanted to share this episode with you where I was a guest on Shades of Jade podcast hosted by Samantha Jade Waldrick. We had a great conversation. We touched on everything current events and politics, and I believe that you're going to really enjoy this.
Hey everyone, my guest today is George Fonts, host of World Ablaze with George Fonts, a show that delivers unfiltered, no bullshit conversations and commentary about politics, news, and geopolitics. With a mostly center, often right-leaning stance, George delivers analysis and informed opinions that cut through the noise as he presents facts, data, and thought-provoking commentary with both guests and solo episodes. George is an avid researcher, and he strives to really understand situations from opposing viewpoints. George has also been fortunate enough to be accepted by many in the intel community and has interviewed some prominent figures in that space. Through his interactions and conversations with Emmy Award-winning journalists, authors, and intelligence professionals, he has been able to walk away with real knowledge and information that often challenges narratives, as he also takes deep dives into subjects to either confirm or dismiss what's being pushed in the media. Welcome to the show, George. I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Would you be able to tell the audience about yourself and what you are working on?
Sure. It's a big question, honestly, with everything I've done. About me. Well, specifically, let's just do this. Let's start with kind of the journey into where I got into podcasting. It'll probably be the most relevant, right? That might be interesting. But I'll just say this. I was basically always kind of a serial entrepreneurial, not preneurial, I was preneurial in spirit. But I was a serial entrepreneur. So, built 6 different businesses, ended up staying within the entertainment industry and where I provide, production, right? So for events, concerts, etc., could be corporate events, whatever. And so I've stayed in that, been doing that. It's been my longest standing business for 27 years or so. And basically one day COVID happened, right? That whole era, and shut down the whole industry. And so, I was in one of those industries where it was really all artsy people. So with that comes more leftist leaning opinions, which is fine by me. It's not a big deal, but I had to hold my tongue on a lot of things. So in fear of losing a customer, right? A client, or, creating a situation on a job. And so I've always stayed to myself when it came to politics and whatnot. So, but the COVID era taught us one thing, is that everyone seemed that, or they felt they can get behind a mic and say whatever they want, and thought that they were, their voice mattered. And many times it does, free speech, etc. But I heard a lot of people getting it wrong. They were saying a lot of things that were not correct, that contradicted the facts, data, and actual reports. Seems like they were just gleaming headlines and not really getting down to the bottom of what was really happening. And so that combined with the push in social media of the time, because nobody else had anything to do, right? It was really the only way that you can connect. You're either doing Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, podcasts, or you're just trying to connect in social media. So in hearing all these people, eventually I said, you know what? My brother's been doing it for like 11 years, right? He's been a podcaster for a long time. He's an OG. And I thought, well, I'm hearing all these people, honestly, and I'm not sure where my language is on your show, but basically talking a lot of crap. I'll just say that.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, well, be careful. But, they're all talking all this BS. And I'm like, you know what? If this person could get behind the microphone and say whatever they want and think that they've got it right, or, through their pseudo-intellectual delivery with big words and run-on sentences and whatnot, I was like, well, then why can't I? Right? And so that's how I started. It motivated me. First, I was, kind of a guest host on my brother's show for a bit.
Okay.
And then I just kind of branched off. And I went more into the political realm. He was always like news stories, some politics. He was kind of in the middle of like current events, news oddities, like stories you wouldn't really hear about. And so I gravitated more into geopolitics. I was really into geopolitics. And when it came to domestic political issues, like when the fires in California were going on and Trump and Gavin Newsom were going back and forth about the water and turning on the spigot. And I'm like, hold on, Gavin, stop lying. This whole Delta smelt thing goes back to like 2012 or whatever. I know, okay, like I know you weren't governor at the time it really went back, but you knew what was happening, and stop saying you don't. And so I went through that whole thing. And so I got into going into delivering deep dive type podcasts on certain like single subject issues. And then I started talking about 3 topics. And then I really started gravitating into geopolitics. Okay. And, and that's where we are now with the show, World Ablaze with George Fonts. And, a lot of people always ask me, well, is the world really ablaze? When you could change the name? And, the reason I came with the name wasn't because I thought the world was literally burning. I thought it was a dual meaning. I thought that it would give me room to work with other people, as in have a person as a guest on the show who I thought was setting the world ablaze through their works, like an author or an artist or whatever. So there is a dual meaning to it, but unfortunately, most everything we discuss has really been about the world being on fire. So, almost literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about, how I got to where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I just got into podcasting because I have no complaints about my job. It's a very good job, but it doesn't keep my mind busy. And
Gotcha.
If my mind isn't busy, if I don't have something to work on in my head while I'm doing other work, it just doesn't work for me. I'm miserable. And so I'm like, okay, well, what kind of hobby can I do to kind of burn off this extra stuff? And I like a lot of other things, but in my head, I mean, I'm always keeping up with politics anyways. So it's like, well, usually if there's something happening, somebody's asking me to summarize a situation. So why don't I just start recording it, So
yeah, good call. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like the news update or the rundowns or whatever of what's happening, and then also have guests and get their opinions on things.
So we're slightly similar there, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, It sounds like work's not stimulating enough, right? Or you can't have the conversations you want to have. So, here you are with the podcast talking to guys like me. So hopefully this is a good conversation. But no, that sounds very similar. I kind of, feel the same way. I think with me, it was more that, I really couldn't express an opinion. And most of us with certain jobs, if you're in government or around, certain companies, for example, that are very connected, you can't. I mean, you just can't. And we've seen during COVID where people were canceled, their livelihoods stripped away. And even after we got through it, returned to the job. And people were going about 30 years about someone who, got a little too drunk for one night and maybe got in the car when they shouldn't. And all of a sudden their whole life is taken away. And I'm not an advocate for drunk driving, by the way. I'm just using it as an example. And it's like, we just seen the cancel culture exacerbate and just really build on itself. And then now, it's kind of died out, but not really, because now we're seeing this weird podcast war thing and people fighting each other and the MAGA infighting. I'm like, it's just coming full circle. It's just switched from one side to the other. And so it's like, is it just, is it really like the old saying? Is it, two sides of the same coin? It's starting to seem that way.
It really is.
No, politics is a weird thing right now. It's gotten so polarized. And I don't think I've ever seen in my life before, I mean, living through the Clinton era and you got the Bush era, Obama, et cetera. I mean, we've seen some very flamboyant presidents in terms of their personalities, like big personalities, right? Able to get behind a mic and move a crowd. But these days, we've never seen anything like Trump since 2016. And that totally spun everybody around. They upended everything. And whether you like him or not, I think it was a good and bad. You had a person who talked straight, didn't care, just said what was on his mind. The byproduct of that being he's not very presidential, which, I like some of the things he does, but I wish he was a little bit more of a representative, to be quite honest. And that caused everybody else to go, well, oh, look at what's working. I'm going to try to do the same thing. And it's just spinning out of control. And now you can't even have a conversation that's not necessarily related to politics anymore. And for those who want to ignore it, well, unfortunately, you're starting to see the fruits of, well, your actions. And that is, putting your head in the sand does not fix the situation. It doesn't make it go away. It's like hiding under the blanket when the monster's staring at you from the door. Monster's still there. You're going to have to deal with it at some point. So it's unfortunate that we're bombarded by it, but I think most people should start to actually take a side and realize where they stand. And I think that would help America right now determine its future. We'll know where the majority of the opinion is versus those who are always sitting on the fence trying to play it safe for fear of, XYZ, be it job, relationship, friends, etc. But at some point, you're going to have to get there. And the way things are going, if we're looking at what's going on geopolitically in America, just not, really winning anybody's favor these days, or so it seems. You're going to have to push, draw a hard line. You're definitely going to have to stand on your laurels. You got to stand for what you actually believe. And I think that's where we're at right now. Not saying pick up pitchforks and start stabbing each other, but you should be able to have an opinion, express it, and have a real conversation, and not just sling insults and these pseudo debates that we see online, which are not debates whatsoever. They're just shouting matches, and it's about, well, who could dunk on the next guy and who's the funniest. And they go, oh, look, I won the debate because everyone was laughing at you. Well, you also didn't even talk about the subject matter whatsoever. So, I like having these type of conversations because we can actually address the actual issues. So anyway, that's my opinion on kind of the state of things at the moment. And that could change tomorrow. Who knows?
Right. I know. See, and that is one thing that people don't seem to realize is it's normal to change your mind. And
it is.
I mean, some of it's kind of fishy when everybody's changing their mind in a specific way. But
at the exact same time saying the exact same thing on social media.
Yeah. It's almost exact same wording with some of them. But,
True.
So what worries me is the midterms. So this week, actually, though, it seems like I don't know, and I definitely want your opinion on this. It seems like now that Pam Bondi's gone, more things are happening with the Department of Justice. It seems like they're actually getting moving on some of the issues that people have been concerned about domestically. So I hope we start to see some progress with that. But the infighting with the Republican Party, it's like, you guys really need to get it together because we really don't have that much time. I was just talking to my husband about okay, so 2027, I do caucus. We'll do it last year or for last caucus. I did a speech. I plan on doing it again for whichever candidate I choose to support. And that starts pretty early. It starts, a long time before the actual election when you start getting ready for that and trying to get people to attend, since ours is the first in the country. But anyway, so you really don't have that much time. And I feel like a lot of time has been wasted so far this first term with bad cabinet picks, Congress just, I don't know, doing fuck all. I don't know.
Literally.
I mean, they have done some good things, but I guess, what do you think? What do you think the midterms are going to look like?
Interesting question, because I've been pondering this, and unfortunately, I haven't paid enough attention with everything that's going on in the Middle East. But that doesn't mean I've necessarily been ignoring it. Well, what I've seen is, I think you're right. I think the Republican Party needs to get their shit together. Look, you've had control of the House, you had the majority, and you've done nothing with it. Instead, you're trying to eat your own and fight each other. We're attacking people like Thomas Massie, whether you like him or not, you want to call him a rhino, et cetera. He's still, on your team. And it's up to you to come to terms so that you can get the votes to move policy forward. And that's what they haven't been doing. I mean, they're dropping the ball completely. It seems like they were more together when the Democrat Party had, control for the last, previous 12 years before, 12 to 13 years, whatever it was. And so they seem to be very unified then, but now I don't know if the party is unified because I don't think it's a single party anymore. I really think it's a Republican Party and a MAGA party. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that MAGA needs to be its own party. And sure, that might be splitting the conservative vote, but we could also ask the question, are they all really true conservatives anymore?
Right.
It seems like it's more of a fight of conservative, liberal, and independent is what it really is. And so we can call that independent party, maybe it's MAGA. I don't know. Maybe we give it a different name. But it really seems like America right now is shifting and focusing more on the independent nature of their status in terms of what they want to be identified as. Because, if we're going to be honest, there might be some stuff from the Democrat Party that makes sense. Maybe not a lot, depending on who you are. Right. But some stuff, right? We can't ignore everything. Yeah. And then on the right, there's some stuff that makes sense. And there's some stuff where you're like, what the fuck are you guys doing, right? So I think a lot of people are moving to the center right now. And to me, the split is, I can't tell if the split is necessarily in the Republican Party or if it's just America going like, both you guys suck and we don't want to support either of you. Now, as far as midterms for the Republican Party, we can say they're dropping the ball, but yet we're also seeing the weaponization of gerrymandering, which I understand is completely illegal. Every 10 years, you got to do it. I get it. But the way it's been going about it, if you're looking at like Chicago or Illinois, for example, how that map looks, where you have this weird sliver here and then it just kind of angles, and it's like none of it makes sense, right? Virginia just got away with it, all right? So we lost some seats there as far as the Republican Party, and everybody's going to go, well, look what Trump did in Texas. Well, you guys are a bunch of idiots because that had nothing to do with Trump. That was a Supreme Court ruling under the Biden administration, and a lot of people didn't even realize what that gerrymandering was about. It was because what happened, and I'll find the notes and send it to you, but what happened, this was an actual court case where there were minorities that got together, right? So let's say, let's say it was like I think it was Asian community, the Black community, and I forgot which other one. But what happened is they worked together to try to represent themselves as one singular minority, to break apart, which was seen to be mostly white districts, right? And they used that as a tool to break the districts up. Now, the courts ruled, or the Supreme Court ruled that that was not constitutional. Like, you can't do that. You can't combine minorities to say you are one representative minority when you're representing multiple people. In this movement, for example, like you have African American, you have people from India, you have Asians, you have people from Mexico. You can't say all these different factions or different groups are now one group, and they're combining their forces to try to break apart districts in order to gain favor or push it in their favor, rather. And so that's what actually happened in Texas. So there was an order that they had to redistrict based on the Supreme Court ruling. It had zero to do with Trump. A lot of people attribute it to Trump because he said, well, we need to make the state more red and we need to do this. Yeah, he runs his mouth, but he had nothing to do with that gerrymandering that happened in Texas. That was already a court order from Biden's administration, under his administration anyway. So anyway, we've seen this happen recently, and Virginia was a weaponized version of it. Let's just be honest, the way they're going about it.
Yeah.
You have Illinois has always been bad. And then California recently. I'm in California, so I can speak to this, okay? So we have let's say 6 million registered Republicans. Only 3 million came out to fucking vote on Prop 50. And so the problem I'm seeing in some of these blue states, it seems like maybe Republicans or conservatives don't feel their vote matters because historically in these blue states, they really don't. But we're giving it away. So I guess in a long about way of answering your question, is the Republican Party or conservatives, let's just not say the Republican Party. Let's just say this. Are conservatives, for example, let's say you and I, if we're conservatives, I don't know if you completely are, but you seem to lean that way.
Yes.
If we're conservatives and we don't vote for the things we're complaining about, you're in essence literally giving it to the other side. So therefore, you can't complain if you took no action. And this lesson that should have been learned in California with Prop 50 is if all the conservatives actually voted, this never would have happened. Because not enough people from the left or the Democrat Party actually showed up to overturn. They wouldn't be able to overturn the votes if all registered conservatives, Republicans actually got a vote. It didn't make sense. Like, what were you too busy doing that you couldn't protect your district? And so here we are now with the majority blue state in terms of the districting and representation. Now, I know it's being challenged right now, but you're correct in, we're not doing anything. There's too much infighting. There's too much inaction. We're basically shooting ourselves in the foot here. And I think we always need a balanced government. So I'm not saying it's okay to be majority red or majority blue. But if we don't have enough representation on either side, then I think the country just goes to shit, just like what we saw under, the Obama era. All right. He was a great representative in terms of how he spoke, but there were some policies that absolutely made no damn sense whatsoever.
Right.
Whatsoever. For example, preferential treatment to immigrants, like a certain immigrant, like from Somalia, right? He let that happen. He was the person who started opening up the borders. His appeasement to Iran and how he treated them and giving them $17.5 billion. And then, as that went into the Biden administration, right? Then there was another $60 billion. So between the two, overall, I think there was about $160 billion or whatever that they actually released assets of and gave money to Iran. Okay, that was you guys. That was on you. We could also talk about Russia and Ukraine. Right. Neither of them did anything to stop him. In fact, Obama kind of just was like, hey, whatever. And then if you look at what Biden did, he did actually nothing at all. So,
right.
I can't blame everything on them. I can blame a lot on them. There's some things Trump did that is questionable, but what I can say is good about Trump is his foreign policy, the way he's been handling it, has been good. Yeah. Whether you agree with him taking Maduro or what's going on in the Middle East right now, et cetera, he is taking action where everybody else didn't act. And we can go all the way back to Carter when it comes to Iran, for example. So, conservatives, dropping the ball. Midterms are coming. We're not doing anything about it. The infighting, ridiculous. The podcast wars, I just don't understand it. To me, it's like a bunch of political soap operas. Like, what are you guys doing? Nothing they're talking about is relevant or matters. It really doesn't.
Right.
Sorry, I know it's long-winded.
I mean, I feel like so many of the podcasts, and maybe it's because I don't even know why I say maybe. A lot of it's because of the clicks. It's they talk about like the obsession with Erica Kirk.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, that's easy for you to get clicks if you're going to talk about anything dramatic like that. So do you not? There's so much other stuff to talk about, but it just seems like they're taking the easy way out to talk about that or bash on Israel or whatever.
I think it sounds because it's easy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the average person, including myself, I'm not saying I'm above average, but the average person, you and I, for example, how busy are we in our lives right now?
Super busy.
Right? And so how often do you have time to do any real deep dive on anything? Like I do. I make a point to do it. Like that's what my show is about. But not everybody does. You're taking kids to soccer practice, karate, whatever. You have school, or have kids or not. Maybe you have different communities you're a part of. You're remodeling your house. You're doing all these things. You have a job that's demanding, and you're just seeing. Oh, Fox News said, U.S. bombed Iran. Well, that sucks. We shouldn't be in any war. Why are we there? All right. Or Trump said, "Screw the UK and F you, Keir Starmer." Okay. Yeah. And they just read the headline and they take it for face value and move on. And I think people are wanting to trust those who are putting themselves out there. Okay. And I'm going to put you in the category, for example, because you go over the news, you go over your weekly, hey, this is what happened for the week, and I'm going to present it. So they want to trust people like you. They want to trust people like me, for example, and they want to believe that we're doing our due diligence and telling the truth.
Right.
And unfortunately, these podcasters that we're talking about, and I'll let you name them because it's your show, but the podcasters that in question, for example, they're not doing that. I think they're more concerned about remaining relevant in terms of their popularity. You see how they've changed positions multiple times, actually, in Biden's administration as well as in Trump's administration. And so where's the consistency? It's very easy to tell that these people are literally grifters. That's just what it is. They're more concerned with staying ahead of the game in terms of collecting the check because likes and clicks feed their pockets. And if they're not doing that, then, I don't think they want to fall behind is what it is. But in doing so, they're ignoring what their actual duty is. And I'm going to say it's their duty because they presented themselves this way. They present themselves as truth tellers. They present themselves as people who want to get down to the bottom of things, who are independent journalists, people who claim to be investigators, and yet they're not doing that. And like you said, they're taking the easy road. They don't want the pushback. They don't want the challenge. They just want to stay relevant and in the top of the food chain in terms of podcasting is concerned. They want to be in that top 100, top 200, and that's all they're concerned with. So I've always said the truth isn't popular. And unfortunately, hey, if that means it's a long road for me or you, then, maybe so be it. But I'd rather be judged on my quality of work and, what I leave behind and what I say, rather than someone who's called a liar years later going, wait a minute, that guy was kind of a little off. We just never realized it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my opinion on that situation.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the infighting's stupid.
It really is. And it just doesn't look good either. It's, I don't know, it's almost becoming reality TV all of, like the pumped up drama, the immaturity of it all. It's just.
You're spot on.
I don't know.
It is. It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's that's what it's turning into. There's a lot of people that I used to listen to that
Anyone
I
specific
don't anymore.
Can you name them?
Candace and Tucker, those are the
Okay.
two that I used to listen to, and it's just like, all right, what is going on here?
It's sad because I used to like Candace in terms of, when she first came out. I don't know her complete history, but there was a time where it seemed she was really taking the road of, I'm going to expose this because the people need to know, right? That was kind of her thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I know the truth, but I'm only going to tell you next week. And,
right.
And I'm looking out for you. And oh my God, there's this crazy plot that I have all the details on, but next week you got to wait because I'm going on vacation. I'm like, hold on. If you really actually knew, let's just be logical about this. If you really knew and cared, would you not involve the authorities? Would this not be done already? Like, why would you use this as a way to hook your audience? Reason is, like you said, it's a giant soap opera. I've told many people, like, she's literally right now, her whole show is an interactive Nancy Drew novel. That's all it is, And that's what it's turned into, unfortunately. As far as Tucker, the guy's smart. I don't know where he's going. I'm not sure what's happening there. But that's another case of, people trusted him, right?
Yeah.
And you got to question the motives, and people will believe him just like they will believe a Dave Smith, for example. I'm not going to. But anyway, as far as Dave Smith's concerned, it's like, I'll just say he's half right, half the time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very surface level information, understanding there. I think his domestic stuff is cool. He gets a lot of that right, but his geopolitics is way off. And but the danger in that, my point being is, the danger in all of that is, don't present yourself as a subject matter expert if you're not. It's okay to say, I'm not sure, and then have the guest who is a subject matter expert on your show. I think that's more credible. To me, that's the right thing to do. And presenting facts and data to your fan base or your audience. And then it's okay to say, this is my opinion. Don't present it as a fact. But these people aren't really doing that.
Yeah.
And there's the danger.
Yeah.
So, I think you're spot on. It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
It really is what it turned into.
It's funny you mentioned Dave Smith, because for him, isn't he a comedian also, or no?
That's debatable.
Okay. And then
no, he is. I'm sorry. I'm just being an ass. No, that's how he started. He's a comedian.
Okay.
He knows Joe Rogan. They're friends. They're all part of that crew.
Thought.
Yeah. And so he was a correspondent on Fox for a while too. So on Fox News, he would give his political opinions on domestic policies or whatever. But the reality, the real push he ever got was being on Joe Rogan's show. And after that happened, that's kind of how he just got bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, he's a comedian. He's part of that crew.
Okay.
So
yeah, he I was thinking he said something once that rubbed me the wrong way. You said, I can't remember what it was, but let's say Tim Dillon, he's another one that I'll listen to, but then he'll have something wrong and he'll go into it for like 20 minutes ranting, and it might be funny, but it's like, okay, but you don't have it right. Like, you didn't understand the situation. There's something incorrect about this. And now your audience is believing your misunderstanding of a situation or a policy or how something happened. And
I think there's been a danger with the movement of comedians as political analysts and commentators. Okay. It's okay to be an average person who has an opinion, because most all of us, like I said, me, average person, we're just trying to live, man. We're trying to pay the bills. We're just doing the thing and waking up and hoping we get through the day half the time with everything going on. And so we're going to have an opinion. And I think that's what's cool about these guys in the beginning. It was like, oh, there's this guy, I think he's funny. He's not a political guy, but, he's kind of saying what makes sense, because I feel the same way. Right. But they've transitioned from that to being, again, SMEs, subject matter experts, political analysts, or historians, if you're, talking about other people. But the reality is, it's misleading for sure. And Tim Dillon, I have nothing to say. I don't really listen to him. I think he's just a living, real life Cartman. That's the way I see him. And
that's hilarious.
He is, and I'm not trying to insult him, but that's just how he comes across to me. I've tried to listen to a few of his episodes. I just can't, because as you said, the guy's so far off.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe his political commentary and analysis in and of itself might be the joke. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think he's off. You know, it's the same thing with Theo Vaughn. I mean, the only reason anybody thinks he's cool is because he gets high all the time and asks people questions, and he had access to the president. Okay, cool. But outside of that, are you right? No, he's not. He has some valid opinions, but he's not right. So I don't know. I think people give these people too much. They lend them too much credence to them being against subject matter experts. They're not. They're not. You know, they're funny.
Right.
I'm not. They're funny. But at the same time, you know, just let everybody know. Remember, I'm a comedian. Yes, this is my opinion. You have to say these things. You have to let them know. Based on everything I've read, and this is how I understand it, they don't do that. You know? And so, unfortunately, they have big audiences. And back to, you know, circling back to what we discussed earlier, people want to trust those who are going out there, getting on a microphone, and they want to believe that what they're saying is the truth, or that what they're saying actually represents them. When these people themselves are so far removed financially from me, for example, like, do they really connect? No.
Yeah.
And so you got to ask yourself, is this all like intentional? Is it curated? The narratives, the messaging, everything. Look, kudos to them for making it. I'm not bashing them for that, but I think I think where we're getting at, if you and I would have to put the word to it, we're getting at is there needs to be accountability. There really is.
Yeah.
You know, say you fucked up. It's cool. You know, say it's an opinion. Say you really don't understand, but I'm going to have the person who does understand on the show. I think if we start doing that, I think I can come back around to them, to be honest.
Right. Do you listen to Tim Pool at all?
No.
No.
I don't have a hate for the guy. I just don't listen. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't listen to a lot of mainstream podcasters anymore. I stopped that. And it's not because I'm opposed to them. Like, I'm not fighting the system. It's just I'm focused on my show's pretty busy. And then I'm making it I'm making an effort to support more independent podcasters. And I listen to more of those. And the reason I do that is because I find that they go out of their way to do the work more than these mainstreamers do, to be quite honest. And it's crazy because these guys have large teams. And, you know, people like me don't. People like you don't. You know, there's other podcasters I listen to that are independent that they don't have large teams. I know them. But yet they're going out of their way to do the work because they want to make sure that they're presenting the truth based on facts and data at the time, included, at the time of the recording, like whatever's available at the time.
Right.
And I don't listen to too many mainstreamers anymore. The only one I listen to mainstream, all right, I'll be honest, I listen to one for more entertainment. But I do listen to Trigonometry. I like Trigonometry a lot just because I think they kind of do what you do and I do. They're just having conversations. They have their opinion, but they're hearing people out whether they agree with them or not. And then I hate to say it, but I do listen to Piers Morgan. And the reason is it's fun. I could put it on in the background and tune it out. And, you know, and he's actually good at what he does. He knows what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just, I know it's a yelling matches and all of that. You got Anna Kasparian over here and Shank User, but it's just funny. It's just entertainment.
Right.
So, I prefer to support the independents.
Yeah. And that's something that I've thought about. I'm like, okay, so if I had somebody help me with writing my material or taking notes, to me, that means I'm not engaging with the material and I'm no longer in the know about what's going on. I'm just a talking head, you know, and that's not what I want to be.
Just walking into it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that what's hard for us is, you know, not my full-time job, right? I'm sure it's not your full-time job. And so making the time with everything that's going on to do what we do. But you know what I do is I have been using more AI tools to help me out. And not to write things for me. Like, I don't script a damn thing. I do not script. That's one thing I don't do. When I have guests, I don't write down questions. I just have the conversation and let it develop.
Yeah.
I have an idea of what I'm going to ask somebody based on their background, right? What are the subject matters in? And I can stick to that vein, for example.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to throw in things that are happening in real time or current events that they may have an opinion on from their perspective that I want to know. And so I don't script anything. But what I do use the AI for is for casting a wide net to grab information. Okay. Like the shooting, right? What happened at the White House, the correspondence dinner. I didn't know anything about it. I was busy, literally. I've been busy for a week. I'm like so out of the loop. And I was just on another show yesterday, honestly, as a guest. And he asked me the question. I was like, I'll be upfront with you. Like, I'm a little behind on this. But let's talk about it. And so what I'll do is I'll use like, let's just say like Notebook LM or something, right? Something of that nature to be like, okay, here's what happened, or just type the topic of discussion, right? In this case, White House shooting 2026 correspondence, and just let it go ahead and grab about 50 sources. And then from there, I'll drill down, summarize, grab another 50, and then eventually through all the summarization and everything, I'll start drilling it down. And then I can start to see, okay, where the stories corroborate, right? If they corroborate enough, I know that, okay, maybe we're onto something, maybe there's a factual story. And then you got to dive deeper from that into the details. Then we start talking about the weapons, et cetera. It's like, and so through this process, it's a lengthy process. Like I don't just turn on, the camera and the mic and just go. And so I do this because one, I personally want to have an understanding before I talk shit. Let's be honest. I have opinions, okay? But I want those to be informed opinions. It doesn't mean you have to agree with me, but at least I can say that my opinion is based on enough facts and data and I can back it up. At the same time, I also want to have enough understanding so that if I don't want to inflect my opinion, but I think it's important for people to talk about, then I have a good understanding again to be able to talk about that subject, that event, whatever happened. And then hopefully my audience can walk away going, wow, that's crazy. Okay. And let them decide. So that's why I do what I do. So I think what would help people like us is leveraging these tools that are out there, not to do the work for you, but to help you do the work. Always be yourself. Always use your brain. Always use your brain. Don't. People are going to see through the fakeness. They really do. They'll see through it eventually. Or you're going to get in a discussion with someone. They're going to realize, well, this person doesn't know shit, right? And so, I would say maybe using more AI tools that would help, like for example, you, me, I just started doing it, by the way. So I'm like, that's awesome. So I just started using it and it does help. And I think a lot of independents, if they're struggling because of time, which we really don't have, try to use these tools that are freely available to help you out, and like I say, go beyond the damn headline. Don't just live on the surface of information. Definitely.
Yeah. So I've noticed, I guess for me with AI, I have to be really careful, but yeah, you do have to prompt like several times to make sure that you're getting the everything correct. Usually I use Grok, but sometimes I'll take a bunch of different notes and put it in and just be like, can you please summarize this event based off of what's in the news and based off of my notes? And it makes it more personable because I think I tend to maybe give information that's not needed or it's repetitive or just sound like a dictionary or something, So it's like, okay, can you just summarize this? And at least I'm then doing my own work, looking into it, and it's just helping me skip one
I don't think there's anything wrong with using the tool. I mean, I use it as I started using more Notebook LM. I use both Grok and I use Notebook LM and I'll use Gemini. I think it's good to use more than one because you're going to get different results. You got to realize that they're aggregators. That's all they are. They're going to give you exactly, like you said, prompt, what you're asking for. And I think the key is learning how to ask the questions. You got to be concise. You got to be detailed. You got to be able to guide it, so to speak. Like, I want to know the birth rate data of the UK. And then after you give me the birth rate data of the UK, can you break it down by, let's say, why am I having a brain right now? break it down by, let's say, culture, right? Like whether they're let's say African, from actually Africa or Moroccan or whatever, because there's, multiple cultures live in the UK. So let's break it down by that. Right. And then after you do that, I want to know, what has been the birth rate over the last 5 years in each one of those cultures, for example. And then you just keep drilling it down and drilling it down until you can start to see patterns emerge. That's the only way to do it. If you're too broad, then your information and understanding is not going to be as concise or as detailed as it could be. So you got to really just start being very specific and just keep going down that rabbit hole. And hopefully not go so deep that you just spent 5 hours doing it. But,
right.
You do have to know how to prompt, like you said, to get what you want out of it. So, but they're great tools. And again, just use them as tools only. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I've actually used Grok a lot because it'll keep track of your conversation. And so if I go back and I have fish tanks, and if I go back and I have a question about my 60-gallon, it knows every species in my tank. It knows all the substrates. And then, it's like, oh, I'm having a die-off of this species. And it's like, oh, they need harder water, stuff like that. And it's like, wow, this is saving me so much research right now. Because
that's really cool. Yeah, look at a Notebook LM. You like that? You might like that too.
Okay.
The only thing is you do need a Google account. I don't know if you do, like Google email, whatever, but that will do similar stuff. And so it'll create a notebook, and within that notebook, you could add sources, and then you can summarize those sources, and you can select which ones you want summarized, or you can summarize it all, take that summary, save it as a source, and then just keep going. So you could save all your summaries as sources, and then you can create reports, you can create presentations, blogs, everything out of those. So pretty cool tool. I just started using that. And again, it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
it just helps someone like me. I know it'll help someone like you who we're podcasters, we're independent, we don't have teams, but it's gonna help us get all the info and help us, focus and get a better understanding of the situation before we just start opening our mouths on the microphone.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. All right. So I've been wondering what your opinion is on Operation Epic Fury.
Epic Fury.
Yeah.
Well,
hard turn.
I'm going to talk about Iran.
Yeah. So for me personally, I am excited that there could be a better beginning for the Iranian people.
Okay.
And I guess I know we're suffering economically for it. So I just hope that the outcome is good for them as well as for us. So I personally am not opposed to what's going on. It's just taking longer than I expected.
How much? So let's start here. I definitely have opinions based on information I actually know, right? But let's backtrack. So my opinion, because kind of it's a broad question.
Yeah.
So do you have any specifics or anything that has happened recently or anything about it that kind of concerns you more or less? Like maybe we can start there and I can try to give you my opinion or an assessment on that. Because Epic Fury in and of itself is it's really broad. I mean, there's a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess, yeah. So this is one topic that I'm not caught up on within the past 48 hours. So whatever's happened in the past 2 days, I'm not sure what's happening. I feel like I heard about another ceasefire, but
yeah, so let's just do this. Epic Fury in and of itself. Let's start with the Strait of Hormuz because that's been the area of contention around the world, right? Okay. Everyone has opinion about it, and you see all the AI slop online through social media where you have the Iranian Lego movies and everything happening, and people are buying in to the fact. It's not a fact, actually. I don't know why I said that. They're buying in to the narrative that the U.S. is fighting a losing war. The U.S. can't win against Iran. Iran is too resilient, etc. I think the distinction here that people need to realize is it's not a fight against Iran. It's a fight against the Islamic regime or the Iranian regime. It's a fight against the IRGC, all right? And most people don't even know what that means. So the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, that is the strong arm of the Islamic regime, all right? The Islamic regime is who has absolute power in Iran, which is crazy because you're like, well, don't they have a president? Sure they do.
Right.
But then you have the guys above, the clerics of the Islamic regime, who really are the ones pulling the strings. So they're the ones who are going to go, okay, great idea, but nah, we're not doing that. So the IRGC was the armed militant units, for example, or arm that would enforce the policies and uphold everything about the Islamic regime in terms of their viewpoints, etc. And and they were there to protect them.
Okay.
So this whole thing came about. A lot of people are trying to make the argument, Dave Smith, of course, are trying to make the argument that we're not going to die for Israel and Israel controls America and we're only there because Netanyahu. Well, I think Trump proved that that's not the case when the 12-day war happened and he yelled at Netanyahu and even said, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. That's a quote. Trump is not being pushed around by Israel. I think Trump has, since the 80s, before he was president or even had presidential aspirations, has always wanted to handle Iran. This whole thing with Iran, we've dropped the ball since Carter. So since the Islamic regime took power in 78, we're looking at about 47, almost 48 years of authoritarian theocratic rule. And so what should have happened years ago, we should have shut them down. Okay. This Strait of Hormuz thing going on where they shut down the strait, this isn't the first time they did it. They did it in the 80s under the Reagan era. So we know that they can do this and they would have done it before. America itself, we're not necessarily affected by it, not directly. Okay. We are in a roundabout way. And the reason is because people are crying about the cost of oil. People are saying, it's too expensive. What are you doing? You're raising the prices around the world for everybody. Well, for America, in an indirect way, we are. Because if we're looking at exports, China buys 90% of Iran's oil. China. It's their biggest customer. They get a deal on it. Okay. So by us squeezing Iran, and in fact, this goes back to Venezuela, actually. But let's stick to Iran for now. By squeezing Iran, the Islamic regime, the whole point of the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade, and it wasn't a blockade of all traffic. It was a blockade of the Persian ports, or not Persian, sorry. Well, it is Persia. Iranian ports. That's what the blockade was. A lot of people got it wrong. Like, oh, look, boats are getting through. Well, yeah, they are getting through.
Right.
We never shut down people's ability to buy from Saudi Arabia, for example, or any of the other Gulf nations in the Persian Gulf. We did not do that. We are trying to control and penalize Iran, specifically the Islamic regime. Why? Well, 45% or more of their budget that they need to run their Islamic regime government comes from their oil sales. Okay, Karg Island actually literally stores about 80 to 90% of all the oil they produce on the mainland. That was the importance of Karg Island. So this whole thing that we're doing right now is not about who has control of the strait. It's about us squeezing the Iranian or Islamic regime financially. You take away their money, they can't operate. As of now, their military is limping along. A lot of people are saying, oh, they have all the Shahed drones and they have, well, the ability to continue to produce those has been fairly impaired. I would say decimated, but it's been very, very much impaired. Through the bombing of what we did and what Israel did, we took out a lot of their facilities that were there to help continue to manufacture weapons, for example, took out a lot of infrastructure on the mainland. We've also took out just about all their leadership. So by controlling the strait, we cut the money off. If we cut the money off, they can't buy. We know what else they can't do? Know what else has been quiet that we haven't heard from? Yeah, have you heard from Hamas lately? No.
Oh, right.
Why? Because they're not being funded by the Islamic regime. Okay. Have we heard from the Houthis much? Not really.
Right.
Well, there was a little bit going on, but it's been a little quiet. We know that Israel wants to go after them, right? But at the same time, all of the strife that has ever happened, the terrorist attacks that have ever happened, have kind of been quiet lately with this conflict, and a lot of people haven't really pointed that out. Well, who's the number one state sponsor of terror? Iran, the Islamic regime. Well, they got no fucking money. Think about it.
Right.
So if we're squeezing the money, they can't operate. They also have no leadership. Okay, Khamenei was killed. His son, Mossadegh Khamenei, he came into power. Where has he been? He's not present, right? We haven't seen him. So we have these messages being read, but where is the leader? And they can make whatever excuse they want about him not being mobile, et cetera. Well, we have this thing called Zoom. We're on Riverside right now, right? There's many things that you can use for remote conversations and presentations. there's much speculation that he's dead. Just not that long ago, there was a mural that was on one of the walls over there in Iran, which depicted those who have served the Islamic regime, the leaders, and who have died. And Moshtaba Khamenei was up there. The son was up there. So they're speculating maybe he really is dead. Now, I haven't done enough to confirm that's true, but the videos have circulated. It's up there. He's right there next to his dad. And so maybe there isn't an actual leader of the Islamic regime right now. So what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz is the ceasefire. Let's talk about the first one. That 2 weeks, right? We're supposed to have the 14-day ceasefire. What happened while this whole thing was being set up? Okay. The U.S. went in and swept up the mines. They opened up traffic. They allowed the boats or tankers that they were able to get through that were doing legitimate business to get their supplies. But the other side, you know, there was still a blockade going. And the multiple ceasefire agreements or talks, it's all theater. I'm going to tell you right now, the Islamic regime is never, ever going to sign an agreement. They do not care about what we think. Okay. They just don't. They're never going to come to heel until they are forced to. And even then, you're going to see them perform the most glorious death rattle, in which they kind of gave us a preview of when they were first bombed. Remember, they attacked all their Gulf state neighbors. Okay?
Yeah.
They weren't even involved. Why did they do this? Because they feel that, well, if you're not going to help us and we're not aligned, then you're against me. And what's crazy is these are also other Muslim nations. Now, of course, we have Sunni versus Shia Muslims, and I know they're different. They see things differently, but at the basic level, okay, if we have Catholics and Christians, we can all say we still read from the Bible and believe in Jesus.
Right.
So, that being said, if you have all these Muslim neighbors, regardless of their minor differences or whatever, the basic thread that binds you all together is the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad. What happened there? Why are you attacking your brothers?
Right.
Made no sense. That right there tells you that the Islamic regime themselves don't even care about Islam. They've been using it as a tool to keep people under subjugation. All right. They've been using it as a tool of conquest and conquering. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I've talked to many people from Iran. I've talked to journalists. I've talked to people in the resistance, you name it. Yeah. And I've got enough of them all to say the same thing. They all believe they're not practicing true Islam, for example.
Okay.
And I might have to agree with that. Some will say, yes, they are. This is what Islam is. But regardless, getting back to the Strait is all about squeezing them financially. Okay. If we cut if we cut China off from doing business with them, they're not getting that oil money from them. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Strait of Hormuz is all about. This whole operation is about bleeding them dry financially. They got no money. They can't operate. They have to buy everything. They have no water. Think about it. They have salination plants because there's not enough water in the desert. Where are they getting it? Their energy grids are, they're not consistent. They have to actually buy and import energy. So if we cut off the money, they can't operate. Now, the thing about this, which you alluded to in the beginning, is we all wanted to see Iran liberated, right? We did want that. Trump said it. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're seeing that. A lot of people speculate that the people who would have stood up against the Islamic regime, let's say the first, unconfirmed, but let's say 30 to 50,000 people they say that were killed. It's speculated that those resistance people, the people that stood up, were the ones that would have resisted. But we also have to look at that as much as Iran right now seems fractured, there is still very much a control issue in terms of the people, what they can get, what they can use, what tools, access to internet for one, they don't have. Weapons, good luck, still hard to get in and out. So they're not really equipped to stand against the IRGC, for example. But the hope we have at this very moment is we're seeing in real time, and I've called this out months ago, people are just barely coming onto it. There's a power struggle, okay, between the Islamic regime and the IRGC. And also, let's not forget the Iranian army.
Right.
What's going on with that? So there has been a power struggle. We don't know who the true de facto leader is of the Islamic regime. The IRGC themselves have been making decisions and doing things that don't always align with the Islamic regime, and if we're talking about the peace talks, right, the ceasefire talks, we don't even know who the real representative is of Iran.
Right.
Right. So basically, it's like you have these podcast warriors and, social media influencers who think they know what they're talking about, are like, well, this is a giant loss for the U.S. and, Trump's going to run with his tail tucked between his legs and what? No, you guys are idiots. The only reason we're going to look like to the world there was a loss here is if Congress does not approve further military action. I'm telling you right now, my nephew's deployed there. I'm going to say that I know some things, but it's not solely from him, but I do know some things.
Yeah.
I know intel experts, like legitimate ones that are still working in the intel community. Everything you guys are seeing is bullshit. Iran is limping. They're barely surviving. Okay. My problem with the situation that I don't agree with is drawing this out because the people stuck in the middle are the Iranian people, the civilians.
Right.
And how are we going to help them? Well, the problem is most of them want help, but then the hardcore people are like, no, we don't want Western influence or we don't want their involvement because we need to do it. Well, we bombed the shit out of the Islamic regime. We took out the leadership, but you're still not in a position to rise up. And that's the unfortunate truth. And I don't know what we do about that. That's my concern, right? What do we do about that? How do we help those people? As far as the Islamic regime, I can care two shits about them. I do not care that their leadership is dead. I can care less if we take them out. I think we should hunt them down like we did to the Nazis. There's nowhere they should go that they should be able to say that they're Islamic regime sympathizers without being chastised or arrested. Okay, because they are actually, to me, no different than the Nazi party. Their goal is to rule the world, period. And we've seen it through multiple tactics, through terrorism and through soft invasion, alluding to the immigration issues we've seen of people from the Middle East that are Muslim. I'm not trying to make this an anti-Muslim rant, by the way. But we have seen it. We've seen it in the UK. We've seen it in parts of the US. It is a reality. And if we want to talk about the extreme Islamic or fundamentally extreme Islamic practices, everyone is simping for Iran and saying there's nothing wrong with the Islamic regime or their practices. And the only reason people are doing that is because their pocketbooks are getting hurt. So I'm going to circle back to what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The oil. Okay. Well, this affects the UK more than anybody. Japan, Australia, etc. They rely more on the oil coming from the Gulf region. Now, do they have to buy from Iran? No. They can buy from Saudi Arabia. They can buy from anywhere else. And in fact, those boats and ships are getting in to buy from those partners.
Right.
The thing that nobody is saying is you could have always gotten oil from the U.S., but why won't they? Because then they'll admit that they need the U.S. That's the problem. The U.K. sure as hell doesn't want to admit that. But there's nothing stopping them from buying from Canada, who's a very big producer, or how about Mexico?
Right. Yeah.
There were solutions to the problem, is all I'm saying. Of course, it still would have added cost, but there were solutions. And then people are saying, well, it's not just about the oil, stupid. It's the fertilizer. U.S. produces probably more fertilizer than anybody in the world. I'm sorry. There were solutions to the issues that are hurting your pocketbook. It would have raised the cost, but not to the level we're seeing now because people are being stubborn. I don't understand, Samantha. I don't understand this. How is it that the world, or Europe, for example, has been the largest voice in this, able to tolerate an evil regime all for the sake of their pocketbook, for convenience, right?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. That's the only reason I can see that they were allowed to exist. And then if we want to talk about this, I'm going to bring up another point here. A lot of people say, well, the only reason Iran's in the situation they're in is because the U.S. overthrew their duly elected, democratically elected leader. Bullshit. We're going to talk about Operation Ajax. You familiar with that?
No.
Okay. So this is something Dave Smith brings up a lot. Operation Ajax was a CIA operation in which they went in during that time period in transition to overthrow the previous government, right?
Okay.
And this is how the Islamic regime came into power. It was a propaganda campaign, basically, by the CIA.
Okay.
Now, the thing that people always miss and don't talk about, why were we there? Because the UK asked us to. This was brought on by the UK. What was really going on at the time was the UK had control of Iran's oil back then. Back then, if we all recall, the UK was a huge superpower, and they actually colonized and they ran most of all the Middle East. They're the ones, when we're talking about Israel, coming into being, they're the ones who handed off to the USA because they no longer had money or control. And they said, you know what, we're going to split all this up and we're going to ask the US to come in and try to broker this and help us out with this. Because the UK as an empire was crumbling, wanted to back out. So Operation Ajax in Iran was a CIA operation, but the whole thing was brought on by the UK. The UK had control of Iranian oil. It was a lot of money. Yeah. What happened was the new government in Iran at the time, they said, you know what? Our partnership isn't working. You're taking all the money, all the Iranian money. You're not giving anything back to us. They're giving us less than 16% for, I think it was like 16% or less of the profits. And so they're like, we're no longer going to do this with you, UK. We're going to nationalize our oil. The oil's coming back to Iran. We're going to make all the money. And the UK didn't like that. Yeah. So the UK asked the US to get involved to help overthrow this leadership. And by doing so, open the door through this propaganda campaign of Operation Ajax to install Khamenei. And what they did was open the door to this Islamic regime. Now, the Islamic regime at the time, the way they came across to the people was like, we're getting back to fundamental practices of Islam. We're going to go ahead and build this country on the religion of love and peace, etc. And they made all these claims. But once they got in and they got into power, that didn't last long because women went from wearing dresses and going out and working to wearing hijabs and being subjugated and raped. All right.
Right.
Sorry, but it is true.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up because I know if people listen to this and listen to me talk, oh, well, the U.S. did this. No, don't be an idiot. Read some history books, go back, find out what really happened. Should the U.S. take responsibility? Yes, we have some responsibility. Why? We agreed to do what we did, but we didn't care. It was the UK who wanted us involved because the UK was losing their grip, their power, and their income from the Iranian oil. That's why this happened. The Islamic regime turned into what they did, but nobody thought they would. And I'll say that the U.S. has a problem with that, right? When we went to go help the Afghanistan, a lot of people were like, "Oh, we funded the rebels and we funded terrorism because we trained Osama bin Laden and all that." That's only half true. The whole reason the U.S. ever really got involved in the Middle East at all was because we were fighting against communism and Russia. Period. A lot of this happened during the Cold War era. It goes back to the 40s, and so the reason we got into Afghanistan was to fight the spread of communism. What happened was the Afghan rebels at the time didn't want this to happen. So we went to help them and train them. The money that they say was given to terrorists, we didn't fund terrorists. You don't know what these rebels are going to turn into. We don't know their true intentions. And what happened at the time is, almost full circle, right? Pakistan stepped in to broker because they knew the relationships with the area and who's who, right? So the money we were given to fund these people actually went to Pakistan. They're the ones who went ahead and then distributed it to who they thought should be given the money to fund their resistance. While lo and behold, they did exactly what we didn't want. They funded some very jihadist type people who were using this as an opportunity to get trained, get money, and then once all the smoke cleared, then that's when Osama bin Laden stepped out. That's when you had Al-Qaeda and all these other organizations start to break off and become what they were. So there's a lot of nuance that people don't discuss. And this goes back to the beginning of our conversation. You got to stop living on the surface of information.
Yeah.
Is the U.S. infallible? No. We have a history of doing some things that aren't cool. But we're not the ire of the world. We're not the reason terrorism exists. And we're not the reason that the world is in turmoil. It's through inactions and decisions made by many different people. Is how we got here. So, in a long roundabout way, I think we need to get rid of the Islamic regime. Okay, ever since their existence for the last 47 years, 48 coming up. Ever since then, the Middle East has not seen peace. It hasn't been Israel. And now, does Israel get hot-headed sometimes? Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes we need to hey, guys, what the fuck you doing? But at the same time, the existence of the Islamic regime, if we go back and look at the correlation of how things have developed, a lot of it has absolutely correlated with their existence in power. I mean, there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but this is a fact. This is a fact. And people, and I've said this, and I'm sorry to be rude, but data and facts don't give a fuck about your feelings. They just don't. I'm not directing that at you. I'm just,
no, I know.
So, and it's true though, and that's just unfortunate. And that statement goes for me too. It doesn't matter how I feel. Facts and data got to win out. We got to look at the reality of the situation.
Right.
So I hope that answered some questions.
Yeah. I have a couple different things. So I guess when I have a hard time making my decision on how I feel about something, I do look at what's the fact of it. Was it legal? And it's like, well, I guess maybe I didn't like this, but they had the authority or, legal ability to do so. And so I guess I can't bitch too much about it.
Let's expand on that legality though, like in terms of what, for example?
I'm talking more about like what people are doing with legislation or, back to the redistricting. Some of it
if
is
we're going
legal,
back to
some
that,
of it's not,
I understand,
But yeah.
I agree with you.
But the other thing is when I do talk to people about politics and they have a certain feeling about something, they might not like something. It's like, maybe this isn't good, but I almost suggest maybe just if you're not going to do your due diligence and look into it, then don't worry about it. Like, I mean,
I agree.
I don't know. And I also don't want people voting based off of something that they misunderstand.
I agree. I agree with everything. I do the same thing. I mean, look, I have a podcast, obviously, right? There's some things that I don't talk about because I am not versed in it. I didn't do enough research, or I got to be honest, it might not interest me. So it's like everybody expects us to talk about something that just, this just happened. I can't wait to hear what you said. Well, I don't really have anything to say on it. I'm either not interested or I don't know enough.
Right.
Maybe I'll tackle it next time. So, I think you're correct. And as far as our legislation, it's like the way it's set up is we don't have as much control as we think. Like our vote matters, but then we've also seen where bills are introduced by Congress that we didn't introduce as citizens that seem to get backed by people in Congress. And okay, good one here, right? Since we're coming back to the U.S., let's leave the Middle East for a while. What about 2026? The federal mandate that's being passed is going to be enacted for every car to have biometric readers, and it's going to be able to track your speed. It's going to be able to read your facial expressions and everything and tell if you're inebriated or even in a good condition to drive. So, Ford's going to be doing this. I think they're one of the first to do it. We didn't vote on this.
No.
Congress decided. So your new Ford truck that if you want to buy next year, forget it. You're going to get in it. And if you look like you're panicked or flustered and this thing reads you and says, you're not in a good state to drive, it's not going to let you drive. If it deems you're going too fast, it might slow you down or pull you over. If it thinks you're tired because your eyes are looking away or whatever, it's going to stop your car. All these things are built in. The other thing it does, it will take this. Now, I don't know if this is confirmed, but I heard. I would say I heard. So don't quote me on this. But we can look into this later. I also heard that it'll do a scan and start to check who you are against police records. So,
really?
Yep. Again, I heard that. So we can call that a rumor for now, but it is something concerning that I heard. So I do have to look into it. So maybe I shouldn't even say it, but I'm going to, whatever. But yeah, this is something that just happened. Nothing we voted on, right? I didn't vote on it. Did you?
No. And
did we get a chance to vote on it?
And why are we, I mean, if this seems to be more for government, more government monitoring or whatever, and that's not really what the Republican Party, which is in charge, should be.
And what about mileage tax?
Oh, yeah.
JB Pritzker, I believe, was trying to push for that, or they did pass. I'm not sure if they did, but Illinois is already going to be doing that. California's talking about it. And it's like, okay, now we're going to tax you for your miles. They kind of already do that on gas, but now they're going to tax you for your miles driven. So that's, I mean, how is it going to work for people who commute to their jobs? Like where I live in California, it's not unheard of to drive in traffic for 2 to 3 hours to go to work. And then come back. These people are spending 7 to 10 hours a day on the road sometimes just working.
Yeah.
To earn a real wage, right? And so you add all this up, they can start taxing you per mile. And then they're like, well, for those who don't drive much, it actually saves them money. Yeah, but it's not necessarily fair. Right now, the gas tax, regardless of when you fill your car up, we know at least it's even across the board. But now you're going to tax people per mile. So I know Illinois is pushing to or did pass it. Again, got to look into that one. But I heard that is definitely something that they're wanting to do. JB Pritchard wants to do that. I know in California they're pushing for it as well. And I don't know where else this is going to spread to. But we have things like that you and I didn't vote on. We also have, I don't know, I'll just bring this up. It's just something I do. I smoke cigars. So we also have this thing of a generational tobacco or cigar ban that's being pushed.
Okay.
It's happened in the UK. They actually passed it. Anybody born after 2008 can't buy a cigar now. Okay. Why do I care about this? It's not just about the cigar because not everybody smokes them, but this is a message to everybody that we're going to decide what is good for you and what isn't, and we're going to tell you what you can enjoy, can't enjoy. Now, what does this do? There are long-standing institutions in Britain, in the UK, that have these very old, hundreds years old cigar institutions of like cigar lounges, et cetera, or importers that are going to be wiped out because eventually they're not going to outlast this ban. Right?
Yeah.
As people like me start dying off, you're no longer going to be allowed to be able to buy a cigar or smoke any kinds of tobacco.
Right.
Cigarettes, in my opinion, I don't know if you smoke it, I can see why they would feel the way they do about that. But a cigar, come on, there's nothing in it. It's literally just tobacco. So California's trying to do this. I think they did pass it. I have to look at that. But it was something that was coming up for discussion for sure. And there were other states that they're trying to do the same thing that the UK was doing in the United States of America. Again, you were talking about legislation. None of us as citizens got a chance to vote on that.
Right.
Because Congress decided, governments of states decided that they have the power to push these bills and ideas that we don't get a chance to decide on.
Yeah.
And if they get enough backing from within, when they make the presentations, gets kicked up the food chain and either the governor or the president signs off on it.
Right.
Now, crazy.
What issues are they trying to address with that? If their constituents don't want it, then who are they really representing when they pass laws like this?
Oh my God, that's a conspiracy question right there. Right?
I know.
Yeah, it's a good question though. Like to what end? Because what they pass that restricts our ability to be free. It's like slowly chipping away at our freedoms, right?
Yeah.
Does it not apply to them as well?
Right. Right.
Do they not see it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot by doing these things? Or do they get special privileges, right? We'll never know.
Right. And then if you're going to do a mileage tax, how about on flights? They're flying all over the place.
Oh, good point, right? Okay, fair enough. Good point. But, good luck taxing a corporation.
Right.
Yeah. You can, you get a lot of write-offs. You can do whatever you want. Look, fuel costs, et cetera, whatever, payments, interest payments on loans. You can write all that off. So it's really more of a direct hit and control against a person, individual, rather than a business, Yeah. So, but that's a very good point, though. You're spot on. It's like, well, why not that? Why is it just cars? And then how is it going to affect the trucking industry? Is there going to be a different way to tax them versus, you got people driving thousands of miles a week. What's going to happen to them? They're already paying almost $8 average on diesel.
Yeah.
What might not be the average, but I have a person, in my industry, and so he's one of my partners, but his brother's he's a truck driver, he has a license, and so he trucks our gear around. And he told us, like, he got the opportunity to take this truck gear around for a tour, for a concert. And he gave the quote, and he's like, man, I had to calculate $8 a gallon on diesel because it's like so up and down across the states. And it was like $7,000 or $8,000 just in gas to do this run.
Oh my God.
Okay, well, that's not even accounted for the mileages that he's driving. So how is this going to work? Are they going to take away gas tax and just do mileage tax?
Right.
I guarantee in California they won't.
No. No.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you basically get taxed for being alive. Every move you make at this point.
You get taxed for breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're cattle. We're just assets. That's all we are, right? For the powers that be. So, all right, everyone, tinfoil hat time. So, right? The Illuminati, they're in control.
It is getting wild. Sometimes I think like, okay, we're all just the peasants of the politicians are living in their kingdom and we're all just the peasants to them.
Does it feel that way?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's like crazy, if they spit on us, we're like, oh, thank you, master. Thanks for the water. It's like, yeah. It's like, is that all we are? No, I hear you, man. It's a crazy world we live in, and we always can say we look at the bigger picture, but I think if we want to fix anything, it starts in our backyard, right? Mm-hmm. If we're not getting involved in school districts, right? If we're not going to those meetings and we're not talking to the superintendents or the board members, I mean, we've seen people arrested for having an opinion. That made sense. Right. But at the same time, it starts there. It starts in your local government. I mean, a lot of people look at government wrong. They think it's top down. It actually comes up and funnels from the bottom. So if you're not controlling your own backyard, your own region, if you're not getting what you want in your city or town, then how are you going to affect the district when it comes to the state? And then how are you going to affect the country, right? It's just like you got to start in your own backyard, own your own backyard. It's the same principle in business when you're starting to grow. You got to own your own backyard before you can get outside of that and expand. And so whatever yard that is, wherever you decide your home is going to be, you got to fucking control that. And if we're not able to do that or not willing to because it's too inconvenient to our busy little lives and it gets in the way of us buying our Starbucks and fucking watching the Netflix special or whatever, then stop complaining. You're letting it happen. You're letting it happen,
Yeah.
And then we got Mom Donnie. I don't know.
This is a little bit different, but the one thing I want to stress when we get closer to the midterms is, how it was in 2020 and in Biden's entire administration.
Yeah.
That will all come back full force and it'll be worse than it was before.
Yeah. You're right.
I mean, people have got to be more involved even now, like hold all the politicians accountable. Be more involved.
Well, here's the thing, because I know that you do go over the Epstein thing, right? Mm-hmm. You've been tracking that.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I think accountability extends to everyone, regardless of your political preference or party preference. I do not care if it's a Republican, a Democrat. I don't even care if it's Trump. I can give a damn less. Right. If these things happen, these people need to be held accountable. They need to be arrested, period. Or hung. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And
my friend and I talk about stoning them to death.
I mean, Old Testament, let's go, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I mean, accountability. We need accountability. Like, why are politicians getting away with things? Why is Bill Gates still walking around?
That's what's upsetting. The most upsetting with going through the Epstein files is like, you can tell that something wrong happened there.
Yeah,
but then
absolutely.
they're like, oh, well, we don't have proof. Oh, we don't have proof. And then it's like, well, you're not calling in. I mean, yes, Bill Gates is going to provide testimony, as are some others, but there are others that need to be called in and questioned about their actions that they're not. And Steve Tisch, I think that's how you say his name, that's one that Epstein set him up with dates, and he had to ask Epstein if they were working girls or civilians. Does that not imply he knew that he was trafficking or involved in some sort of illegal activity? But the House Oversight Committee hasn't called him for testimony. And it just blows my mind. And I'm not even very far down the list of names.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. And then I don't want to bash the victims at all, but they've also declined to go on record and name names. And it's hard to charge people when you don't have names.
I've said the same thing, and people kind of like push back or attack me for it because they're like, well, you got to understand the victims, what they're going through, and we got to protect them. It's like, Well, we do, but then you see some doing commercials saying, I was a victim and this and that. Well, if you're going to put yourself out there and tell the world you're a victim, then point at the person who did what they did wrong to you.
Yeah.
Because
you can't just keep screaming for the files to be released and for prosecutions to happen if we don't have the names.
Yeah, but they do. So my take, and I'll be honest, I think you know way more on this than I do. Like, I haven't taken the time to go through the whole, like, even go through the list. I tried. I just don't have the time. So this is going to be interesting for me. I'm going to learn from you. That's for sure. But what I find interesting is, we had Danny Bongianino. I call him Bongianino because I just don't care about that dude anymore.
I was actually wondering if you liked him, but I'm not a fan anymore. So
no. I mean, he went to attack his listeners, and you're all black pillars and all that.
Yeah,
and it's like, look, you can only cry about how tough you are and everything that you can do for so long, dude. Look, you're just a talking head. You're just hot air on a mic. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
you don't have any inside info anymore. Like he did when he was in the FBI. Let's not say he didn't, but he doesn't now. And before that, he didn't then. So the thing with so the reason I brought him up is because he was the one, remember, before he got the position as deputy director. I'm going to blow the doors right off. I'm going to hold everyone accountable. We're going to go ahead and arrest all these guys. Why is it taking so long? And then he comes out, Epstein killed himself. There's nothing there. What the fuck are you talking about?
I know.
Danny, listen, buddy. We had nearly over 20 years of investigatory actions against Epstein. That is money, that is resources, that is agents, that is like thousands and thousands of pages, as you know, because you're actually reading them all. It's like, you're telling me there's nothing there, but yet the government found it interesting enough to spend all this money and resources to do an over 2 decades investigation, 2 decades long investigation. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to believe?
Yeah.
If I'm cussing too much, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No,
you said okay, so
no, you're good. I have when my friend gets on here for the true crime stuff, it's pretty wild sometimes.
Okay,
but
I'm trying to choose the words for emphasis more than anything. So
yeah.
But seriously though, like what's up? What's up?
What blows my mind is, so Epstein's brother doesn't think he killed himself. There's been other medical examiners say there's no way. And I'm not a medical professional. I was a CNA. I did clean up dead bodies. I have seen dead bodies, and I understand how the skin models, what dead bodies look like after they've been dead for a while. And so I will say that there is stuff there where people think that's not Epstein. He's not dead in that photo. He's too relaxed. Right. And the ligature mark, it should not be straight across. When you've hung yourself, it should be at an angle. And there's no way that a bed sheet made that mark so precise.
Because
as well.
It's too much fabric, like too wide.
Mm-hmm. It looks more like a shoelace or something like that. And with it being straight across, and then there's a contusion on the back of his neck.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like somebody just strangled him.
Maybe hit him from behind and then hung him or strung him up.
I think, I don't know if it was manual, but it definitely was from behind. And then that was putting pressure on. Again, I'm not a medical professional.
Who was the doctor that revealed, like he said similar to what you're saying, like I forgot his name. He was trying to say that he didn't hang himself and that nothing lined up or looked like what would happen from somebody actually hanging themselves, like the way the injury on the neck was and whatnot. I forgot his name. I don't know if you might recall it.
I cannot think of his name. And because when I was reading who Mark Epstein, the brother, hired, it sounded familiar. But there are a lot of medical professionals out there with decades of experience that do not think that he killed himself.
I don't think he did. There's no way. There's too much that is circumstantial. There's too much that's weird, like the camera's going out, things like that.
Yeah.
Like none of it made any sense whatsoever. It really did not make sense.
Right. And then the fake body to cart him out so the press wouldn't see, but then the press was at the hospital anyways. And
I think he's in the Bahamas right now.
I don't know.
Did you see that picture circulating about him being out, like, I think in the Caribbean or somewhere, and he's like had this big old beard and
Yes, and apparently he's in Israel as well,
oh,
and,
okay.
Palm Beach Pete, I think that's his name. Have you heard of Palm Beach Pete?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
It's some guy that looks just like Epstein driving around, and
Really?
now he's getting on social media saying, "Hey, Palm Beach Pete
That's
here.
funny.
I'm not Jeffrey Epstein." But then people are noticing he has, like, the same stutter as Jeffrey Epstein or some speech impediment thing,
Pulling a
and
Shaggy. Wasn't me, right?
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I did think he was dead, and then recently, after hearing about them pretending that this pile of clothes or whatever was him, and that the body that was pictured looked like someone connected to Hillary Clinton. It's like, gosh,
What's
all the crazy stuff keeps being proven true, and I don't want
yeah.
to put the tinfoil hat on, but it's like
Why not
something's
at this point? I mean,
yeah,
like, so I was going to ask you since you brought that up. What do you think is going on there with the involvement with the Clintons, for example? Because their names came up a lot, and then she was
yeah.
really pissed off when she was under the questioning.
Yes. So Hillary and Bill contradicted each other quite a lot
Huh.
in their testimony. Um, and going through the files, there are fake images of Hillary with Epstein that are flying around, but there are not real confirmed images of Hillary with Epstein. And I just wonder if it's one of those makes me think of Harry Potter where what was it? Dumbledore didn't want Harry looking at him. I don't know if you're into that because Voldemort could like
I've
see
seen them
through him.
all. Yeah.
Okay, so you know how Dumbledore was like avoiding too much eye contact with Harry because he didn't want Voldemort to see the
Oh yeah,
connection,
yeah.
right? So then
Yes.
it's almost like, okay, so was Hillary involved, but she made sure to not be pictured with him ever. Because how can Ghislaine Maxwell attend her daughter's wedding and she was just a plus one?
Right.
Okay, well she's pictured pretty prominently in a photo, and
Yeah.
then how can her husband spend so much time with him yet they've never met? Epstein met everybody.
He made it a point to be known
Exactly.
as the guy, right?
Yes, he fed off of that. He lived off of it. I just don't believe that she never met him and didn't have some suspicion, and it was before his 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor. But
how do we trust Hillary at all in what she says when she had servers at her house a long time. Remember that? In her fucking basement, servers with sensitive
Yes.
U.S. information. The
Yes.
whole Benghazi issue where she literally didn't raise a finger to help the people, and many people died,
Yeah.
when the embassy was being overrun. I mean, she has been implicated in so many things where she fumbled the ball and never was held accountable and went to prison. She even
Right.
said, "No, I'm not coming for questioning. I don't have to." Well, how does that work? Because if someone called me in for questioning in a court order, I'd have to go in or I'm arrested, right?
Yeah.
Like, none of this makes any sense to me. And then I think, I could be wrong, so tinfoil hat time. Do you think the Diddy thing and Epstein's kind of related somewhere? Because they seem like very similar things to a degree.
I do wonder that a bit because there was Epstein did a lot of stuff with women that were of age too, with the modeling agency thing, and there just does seem to be some overlap there. I haven't found a connection yet, but that doesn't mean that
Still
there
makes you
isn't one.
wonder, yeah?
Mhm.
Because the other thing that's crazy is with Diddy, they were on his ass quick. Like, look how fast they found all the evidence, did the arrest, etc. But with Epstein, we have over 20-something years, and they still say, "Oh, shit."
Yeah. And that, was it Alexander Acosta? I'm trying to think of whoever was supposed to be prosecuting him back in 2008 in Florida. And they said that there's like 10 to 20 men involved in this ring. And they had all this proof, but then they're like, well, we're afraid we're not going to get the conviction we need. So they gave him the sweetheart deal. And it's like,
right.
Okay. And then these 10 to 20 men, like, no one questioned. We have nothing, we have nothing because you didn't go after it.
You know what's crazy is So the thing with Epstein, okay, a lot of people speculate he was like a Mossad agent and all this stuff. I don't know if that's the real tie-in. But what's sad is a lot of people are looking at the Epstein case and issue as just a U.S. issue, and this was a worldwide thing.
Right.
He had leaders in I think it was Qatar or Saudi Arabia that were implicated. Prince Andrew, stripped of his titles.
Yeah.
There's so much going on around the world where it comes to connections with Epstein, but yet people are thinking it's just a U.S. operation or it was just a U.S. thing. Like his tentacles were many, and they reached across the entire world. And so, in some way or somehow, he was able to infiltrate people's like relationships and who's around them, and get to know them, and somehow have a bit of control over them in some way. And we can say that's attributed to the underage girls, which very, very well may be. But he also did other things in moving money illegally, right? There was also stories of him getting involved in arms deals or facilitating them, right, in an indirect way. So everything he did goes well beyond to just what happened with the prostitution.
Yeah.
He was involved in a lot of other things. So it's like, was there someone behind him is the question. And if that is the case, which could be, that's the person suppressing everything. And so who is that individual?
Right. Right. And it almost seems like there has to be someone else behind him.
Either a person or organization, right?
Right. Right. And it is interesting to see other countries going after like Peter Mandelson, some of these other politicians in other countries. They are actually getting investigated and stuff like that. But we just can't seem to find anything on anyone connected to him in the United States. I think administrations I think every administration probably deleted stuff from those files.
Do you think what Cash said about, files from before and what evidence being destroyed or burned, do you think that was true?
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to stand up too much for Pam Bondi because I think she's been terrible since February 2025 with the binder bullshit.
That was dumb.
It was. And so then I've had a hard time really trusting anything she says. But I do know that the files from the Southern District of New York, they had asked for them. They were refusing to hand them over. And that was part of why there was a delay with releasing all of the files, because they had to fight them legally to hand them over.
Right.
So I do believe that there was tampering, because why wouldn't they just hand them over?
Yeah, it wasn't the excuse that they were trying to make sure that victims' names were redacted?
Yeah. Yes. And my big problem with all of this is everyone wanted the Epstein files released. Everyone. And everyone was demanding it. Yet no one was giving a timeline, we want this by this amount. If they would have just taken their time, released a little bit at a time. This is what we've gone through. We've taken our time to make sure that the victims' names and faces have been redacted. Here's the year 2008. Have at it, and then everyone would have been happy with that if we would have just seen something instead of, now we've got to do the Epstein Files Transparency Act, release 3.5 million files. Redaction errors, people redacted who shouldn't have been redacted. It just became such a mess.
It's almost like that was a tactic used to distract, right? Because think about 3.5 million. Like, who's going to go through all that? That takes teams, like years. And the reality is, I like what you said. Like, if they would have just released a little here and there over time, like, here you go. But at the same time, with all the evidence and years of investigative work, where the hell are the arrests? Are you telling me all you have is Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein? That's it? Like, there's nothing else? There's no other conduits, go-betweens? What about clients clients? How can you not arrest a client if they are engaging in underage sexual acts, like with underage girls or even boys? But how are you not arresting them for doing these things?
But, also, how is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for trafficking if no trafficking took place? I mean,
yeah, well, good point. Like, if it didn't happen, then why is she there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no evidence.
Now, I don't
why
know.
is she there?
I don't know why she's not naming names, or whatever.
I think it might go back to there might be another person, another organization pulling the strings. I mean, she's probably just trying to save her own ass.
Probably, yeah.
Or she's stringing the government along for as long as she can to keep her preferential accommodations.
Right.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that regardless, people should have been arrested already. And I personally, not vindictively, but I want to see politicians burn. I want to see them go down. They never, ever are held accountable. I can't remember the last time an actual real politician went and served any prison time.
Yeah. No.
So on that vein, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Comey just was, there's an arrest warrant issued, right? Did he get arrested yet? Or is it just an issue or what's going on with that?
To me, it sounds like they actually don't have that much to charge him off of. But
were they just trying to base it off that threat, that seashell threat that remember that on social media posted?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there are things that he could be charged for, but I think that if they're just going off of the seashell post, that's not enough. But I guess, there have been, I mean, is it going to go anywhere though? Because we are seeing a lot of people finally get indicted. Right. We're seeing people resign from Congress for sexual impropriety. Is it going to go anywhere?
Good question.
I don't know.
It probably won't just because of who he is, but at the same time, like I can agree that that whole seashell posting might be thin, but it is also a direct threat to the life of a president. Yeah. So this could lead to other things that we're not seeing. This could lead to further regulation of social media. This can lead to what's going on in the UK. You can be arrested for what you say or think in terms of your posts. Yeah. This could be just a way to open a door to that. Like I said, that's why sometimes when you look at this, it's like, is it really two sides of the same coin?
Right.
And so that was the one thing that popped to my mind, or the few things that popped to my mind. Is it really about going after Comey for what he said, or is this opening the door to further regulations of free speech?
Right, which is that's not where we want to go.
Right. I mean, that's a theory. It's not a fact or truth yet, but we did see this play out in the UK.
Yeah, and I've been wondering that as well. And I will say that I do think that there should be repercussions for people who incite violence. And his post did incite violence. I mean, sure, say what you want to say, but if you're inspiring someone else to go out and try to assassinate somebody, I think you should be held accountable.
I agree, and literally calling for the assassination of a sitting president, like seriously.
Yeah. And all right,
how many posts did we see about let's assassinate Obama or let's assassinate Biden? Yep. Did we see that?
That's exactly what I was going to say. And then, of course, if there were posts like that, it would be like, oh, there's the violent right again. But, oh, look, we just found out that the SPLC was funding the KKK and neo-Nazis to make the right. The world is so crazy right now.
A total admission of everything they denied their entire existence, right? Left doesn't incite violence. We are inclusive and we love everybody. And yet you're funding an organization which literally is vehemently racist. And fun fact, I'm sure you know, KKK was founded by the Democrat Party.
Right. Yeah.
Did they ever cut ties? Apparently not.
Right. I know. And I wonder how many of those people that they paid were actual members too. So
members
I live near
what?
The KKK, neo-Nazis, or if they were.
Oh, you're talking about all the other people? Yeah.
Yeah, the people that were marching and stuff.
Right.
So I used to live in a town in Iowa that had the largest KKK chapter in the United States. And they have their own magazines. And so like when I first moved to town, like they tossed a magazine into my yard, and I don't know if it was like a welcoming thing. Like, hey,
Probably.
if you're interested.
Well, heads up.
Yeah. And and so they have their own magazines. They have their own business cards. So you could go to a bar and play pool with somebody and they'll say, hey, good game, hand you a business card. And
That's
it's
crazy.
literally a KKK business card. They're not going out marching and in matching clothes and stuff like that. Maybe some chapters are, I guess. I don't know. That's my personal experience. Unfortunately, I've been around it, and then the Aryan Brotherhood, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Of course, I'm approached by that group. I've been approached by that group. You won't be able to tell that they're part. I mean, not in rural Iowa, I guess.
I would think the Brotherhood you would with all the tattoos. I mean, they were founded as a prison gig, right? I think out of Texas or whatnot.
Yeah.
So them you might be able to tell, depending on if they're displaying everything. But I think the lesson here and what you're saying is they're active, but they're not. They're in the background. They're doing it in other ways. They've never gone away, right?
Right.
And so they themselves, you might be on something. Like they're the ones who are taking the money and funding these other people who look like normies or normal people to do things for them, and they're just being useful idiots, right?
Yeah.
Like we're seeing the protests for Palestine or the protests for the 7,000 genders or whatever the case is, and could this not just be a tool to keep people divided? And and honestly, if you're looking at what's going on, is it not just a page out of the Marxist playbook? How about a page straight out of, and here's the Nazi KKK tie-in, Joseph Goebbels' playbook, right? The 1930s Nazi propaganda ministry. It's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they did. And there's also, now we look at, here's the other tie-in. So if this was an SCP, right? SPLC, sorry. So they're funding the KKK.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going out and funding these protesters that may not be tied to the KKK.
Right.
But yet they're doing exactly what Joseph Goebbels has said. You tell a lie consistently enough and long enough, and you continuously tell that lie, it becomes a truth. So what we're witnessing here is both social engineering, in that they're trying to engineer society to accept certain things so that they stand against others. And they're also it's also behavioral conditioning through controlled narratives and curated words, right? So the word Nazi almost means nothing anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if you're saying a very carefully placed word within a very curated, carefully delivered message that is very consistent and never changes it's ever since Trump came down the escalator, then what are you doing? You're conditioning people to believe a certain thing. So far, what we have seen is the government. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're seeing is we have to accept socialism because it's fair to everybody and free. The rich are taking advantage of everybody. Those are what most of the protests have been about. No kings, etc. What is it really all about? Anarchy. Toppling the powers that be, or the perceived powers that be. So it's all of this is leading towards tearing down the government from within. And unfortunately, people are eating it up because the message has been consistent and has been non-ending. And the younger people who are being educated, especially in higher educational institutions, they're being indoctrinated. Again, this is all playbooks from the communist Marxist playbook. Karl Marx himself has advocated and wrote about doing this. And Joseph Goebbels has done this during the 1930s and 40s, during the Nazi reign. This is not new. And so what we're not seeing is we're not recognizing what's happening.
Yeah.
Because they're playing on people's ires. They're playing on people's, woe is me, I don't have enough money, I can't buy a house. And they're just looking at that, redirecting all of their pain and suffering and how they feel. And they're finding a common enemy. A common enemy right now is Trump, or it's just the U.S. government, or it's democracy, or it's capitalism. But that's what they're doing. And so all of this makes a lot of sense if you're looking at it from a macro view and you're able to go, wait a minute. This all looks like it's kind of intertwined now, right?
Right. I think there are people that think that this is going to go away when Trump is no longer in office. They're just going to find a different target.
It's not going to go away. And I think the thing is we're going to see what happened previous Trump, to where nobody's even going to know what's happening. Because to them, it's just the normal thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to install biometrics in our car. It's a great idea to be taxed on mileage. Like, I'm just using those examples. I'm just calling back to that because it's like these little things we give away because the way that they present it, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I can go without that. It's only like a couple bucks here and there.
Right.
But what you're really doing is you're slowly letting them take away your freedoms. And once you do that, they don't ever, ever, ever give it back. I mean, I don't know if you yourself can recall any time something that was taken away, a right, a privilege, etc., that the government went and said, you know what, we did this about 20, 30 years ago. We kind of fucked up. We're giving it back to you.
Right. Yeah. No, it's never coming back.
No, never happens. Right? It's like, nope, this is your new world now. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So what do we do? What's the answer?
Got to get out and vote.
Yeah. Own your own backyard. We got to start there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess we got to put America first and stop, worrying about a evil Islamic regime that is hell-bent on taking over the world and toppling the Western nations and destroying America. Maybe? I don't know.
And stop fighting about stupid shit.
No shit. Yeah, I'm with you there. So anyway, I think we, at least as independents, maybe we should support each other more, maybe get our voices out there more to fight the controlled narratives that are dividing us. And let's just be real and have real conversations. Let's just be honest. That's what we need to do. Yeah. I'm tired of hearing the debate bro shit. Let's have a real conversation. Okay, you heard me out today. You probably don't agree with 60% of what I said, but regardless, you heard it. Maybe you'll walk away with something. Maybe I made a point. And at the same time, you've said some things where I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. That's the point of this to me.
Yeah.
It's not I'm not here to change a world. I'm here to just give you my opinion, deliver the information as I know it to be true. And, maybe you'll think differently about something. Not going to change you fundamentally, but maybe now you can see a different angle on something that you didn't see before. And in turn, same for me. That's what I like getting out of this. This whole thing that we see with these other podcasters that we talked about earlier, that all they do is debate. And it's like, they're not even dealing with the substance of what's happening, or even really getting down to the bottom of the issues. That is a dangerous thing. I don't see that as being any different than what you just talked about right now with the funding of the KKK and the messaging and the protests and all of that. It's the same shit. It's just a different approach.
Right.
One method is for one audience. The other is for another. It's doing the same thing. It's dividing and conquering. That's all it's doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that seems to be everybody's goal right now. It's just to...
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can continue to have these talks, right?
Yeah.
I would say that would be the thing. Let's support others who are really going out of the way to get, the truth out there. Because again, truth's not popular, but I think if we can all get behind it and stick to our guns here, so to speak, I think we'll start making that change. I think we're going to bring people back to reality.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's been fun doing a podcast and being able to hear other people's perspectives and
absolutely
learn. And
well, that's what this does. It allows us to focus and conversate. So I think it's great. I'm going to say I thank you for having me on here.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for being on.